today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to implement text recognition capabilities within your Flutter application. Text recognition is a process by which we can extract text from images. Our application is going to have the following functionality. We'll be able to click the floating action button, which is going to direct us towards the gallery of our phone, and then we can select an actual image which has some text within it, and then the algorithm is going to go ahead and deduce what the actual text is within this image. So in the case of the stop sign, it's telling us that it detected the letters STOP within this image. If I click on this and I use a much more complicated example like a picture of a poem, as you can see, it went ahead, analyzed the picture, and then produced an output for us stating all of the words that it found within the actual image. Before we get started, we need to take a look at all of the dependencies that we're going to be using to build our project, and the two for this video are going to be Google MLKit Text Recognition, which is the actual package we're going to be using to perform our text recognition, and then also the Gallery Picker package, which is going to allow us to actually pick images and access our phone's gallery. So to get started, let's first copy the Google ML text recognition package, come back to our pubspec.yaml file, and then under dependencies, I'm going to go ahead and paste this. And once this is done, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is also picking up the gallery picker, copying it, and coming back and pasting it again. So now that this is done, the next thing that we're going to be doing is taking a look at how we're going to be setting up the iOS and Android side of things in terms of the settings that we have to configure before we can run our actual application. As a side note, links to all of the resources that I mentioned within this video, as well as a link to the source code, can be found in the description below. So feel free to take a look at it if you're confused at any point. So now that this is done, the first thing that we're going to be doing is tackling the iOS side of things. So for that, I'm going to open up the iOS folder, and then I'm going to go to the pod file folder. Here, we're going to be uncommenting the line which says platform iOS 12.0. And once this is done, you can save the pod file. The next thing that we're going to be doing is coming down to the point where we see post install stuff for our pods, as you can see here, and then we're going to be adding some code here. You can come to the actual page for the Flutter MLKit text recognition by Google, and then you can actually copy the code from here the same way that I am doing it, and then again, links to all of the resources will be down in the description below. So I'll copy this first chunk of code, come back, and within my post install block, I'm going to be pasting it and then doing command save. And then after this is done, for the next code block, which is here, what we're going to be doing is actually adding this within this code block for pods underscore project.targets.each, like so, and then doing command save, and that's pretty much it. So this is all of the stuff that we have to do for iOS side of things. So now that we have the actual project configured correctly to work with the ML text recognition, the next thing that we're going to be doing now is actually taking a look at the settings that we have to do for Gallery Picker when it comes to iOS. So the only thing that we have to do for the Gallery Picker to work is basically add the appropriate permissions to our info.plist file. So for that, what we're going to be doing is going to our iOS folder, we're going to come to runner and then open up the info.plist file. Once this is done, I am going to be copying all of these permission clauses by clicking on this clipboard icon, and then I'm going to be coming back and I will paste this after here where it says key and then the string. So here I'm going to be pasting it in and doing command save. So in terms of the setup of iOS, now we are done. So now that this is done, we can close down the iOS side of things and come to Android. So for Android, the process is going to be pretty similar as well. The first thing that we're going to be doing is taking a look at all of the settings that we need to do for the MLKit text recognition package to work. So for this, I'll scroll down to where it says Android. Then the first thing we have to do is come to our app, build.gradle, and here we are going to be changing some things. So the minimum SDK version in this case has to be 21 as specified here. And then the target SDK version, I'm going to be setting that to 34. You can do 33 as well, just depends upon you, but it has to be more than whatever's listed here. Once this is done, I'm also going to go ahead to the compile SDK version, which is going to be under the Android tag here. And I'm going to be setting this to 34 as well and do command save. And that's pretty much all we had to do. So the last thing that now we're going to be doing is actually going to our Android app main and then the Android manifest.xml file, and then we are going to be adding some permission clauses to our Android manifest.xml file so that the Gallery Picker works correctly on Android as well. So again, I'll scroll down to where I can see the actual permissions, which are these three. So I'll copy the first one and I'm going to paste this before the application tag here. And then once this is done, I'm going to paste in two other ones, which are the read media images and read media video, because I am targeting Android SDK 33 or above, and then paste these in as well. So with this done, that's pretty much all we had to do. So now we've configured our application to work on iOS and Android correctly. We have the correct permission set up. We've added the correct dependencies. So everything should work as intended, and there isn't anything that's going to cause issues for us, as you can see. So the next thing that I'm going to be letting you guys know is that this is an optional step that you can do if you want to actually implement text recognition that is going to be for letters that are other than Latin. So for example, if you want to perform text recognition on Chinese, then there are steps here that you need to do in order for the Chinese text recognition to work. Same for Japanese, Korean, or Devanagari. So for example, if you want to do text recognition on Japanese, you'll have to copy this specific line of code and then paste it within your iOS pod file, and then same goes for Android. But since we're only going to be doing Latin character-based text recognition, this is not important for us. So now that this is done, all of the actual setup is done. So what I am going to be doing is closing everything down, then coming to my actual lib folder, coming to main.dart file, and just giving my application a test run to make sure that everything works as intended. So I'm going to start debugging the application, and keep in mind, since this is the first time that we have installed the packages and are building our application, so it might take a bit longer, but just let the application build. And once the application is running on the simulator, I will resume the video. So now that the application is running correctly on my Android simulator, we can proceed. But before we can actually proceed with the actual development, there's another thing that I wanted to let you guys know, and that is that if you want to actually test the text recognition capabilities on an actual iOS simulator, I believe that is not going to be possible because the actual MLKit text recognition package that we're using only supports a 64-bit architecture. So to test this, you will have to plug in an actual iOS device into your computer and then select that and actually debug your application on that. So with this said, that's why we're using an Android simulator for the purposes of this tutorial, but the actual coding logic is going to be the same regardless of Android or iOS. So now that our application is running, I am going to open up my home page, which is a stateful widget that has a scaffold being returned for the build function with an app bar added to it, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to be implementing all of the logic from scratch. The first thing that I'm going to be doing is implement the logic so that we can actually select an image that we want to perform the text recognition on. So to get started with that, the first thing that I'm going to be doing is creating a variable which is going to be of type file. And we're going to import this from .io, and it's going to be optional. And it's going to be the selected media. So the file that we have actually selected when we opened our gallery. Once this is done, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is coming back to my scaffold and adding a floating action button to it by setting the floating action button property to a new instance of a floating action button. For the onPressed callback function, I'll leave that to be empty for now and then do command save. Then I will just add an icon as a child to the floating action button, which is going to be icons.add, so that we can see it more clearly. And then now we can proceed to actually implementing the actual crux of the functionality of selecting a media file. So to do this, the first thing that I'll do is I'll mark the onPressed function callback to be asynchronous. And once this is done, I'm going to say that we're going to have a list of media file that are going to be returned to us. And this actual media file class is going to come to us from the gallery picker package. So I'll import that. And then I'm going to say that this is going to be an optional variable. I'm going to say this is going to be called our media. And then I'm going to be setting this equal to await and then gallery picker dot, and I am going to do pick media like so. Then we have to give it the build context, which I'm already passing, and then after that I am also going to be giving it the property single media to be true, so that we are only going to be selecting one image from our gallery, and then do command save. So now that this is done, what I'm going to be doing is quickly testing this functionality out. So if I click on the plus button, it should open up the gallery for me. It should ask me for the appropriate permissions because we've added those clauses to our Android manifest.xml. I'll do allow all, and now we can actually browse our gallery and actually select an image. So now that we are selecting an image, the next thing that I want to do is actually save this image in our variable, which is selected media. So to do this, what I'm going to be doing is firstly making sure that our media is not equal to null. And then I'm also going to be adding another clause where I'm going to do media dot is not empty. So if this is true and this has to be is not empty, then we can actually proceed. And what I'm going to be doing is creating a variable called data, and I'm going to be setting this equal to await media and then dot the first element from the list like so, and then call the get file function on it, which returns a future file. So that's why I'm adding an await call so that we save the file into the data. variable. Now that this is done, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is calling the setState function, and within setState, I'm going to set the selected media variable equals to data. So now that this is done, I am going to select the button, and then I am going to select an image, and now everything's working as intended. So the next step that I want to do is actually show this selected media file in the UI. So to do that, what I'll do is that firstly, I'm going to come to my scaffold, and I'm going to say that for the body attribute for this scaffold, it's going to be a call to a function called build UI. Then I will come to the bottom of my class, and I'll say that we will have a function which will return a widget called build UI, open it up, and do the following. The first thing that I'll do is that I'll say that we are going to be returning a column. It's going to have children's list, and for now it's going to be empty. I'm going to define the main axis size, main axis alignment, and cross-axis alignment for my column. And then for the children, the first child within this column is going to be a call to a function called image view. Then I will do the same thing as we had done before, where I'll create another function which will return a widget called image view, and then I'll open it up like so. And here is what we're going to be doing. If our selected media is equals to null, so if our selected media is null, then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be returning a center widget, which is a child, which is going to be text, and it's going to say pick an image for text generation. And if this is not the case, then what I'm going to be doing is actually returning a center widget, and I'm going to say that the child for this is going to be image.file, and then the file here is going to be our selected media. Now I can add an exclamation mark to it because I know this value is not going to be null because I've already performed the null check here. And once this is done, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is setting the width for this to be 200 and do command save. So now you can see that the actual image is being shown to us. So now if I actually restart my application completely, you're going to see that since we've restarted our application, for now we haven't selected a media file. It says pick an image for text generation. I click on it, download, select one of these. So let's do this one. And as you can see, the image is now being displayed. So now that this is done, the next thing that we're going to be doing is implementing the actual logic to extract the text from this. So to do that, the first thing that I'm going to do is come back to my column, and I'm going to say that I'm going to have another child for this column, which is going to be our extract text view widget. And then what I'll do is that I will come and I will say, like I had done before for my image view, that I'm going to have a function which is going to return a widget, and it's going to call extract text view. And then within this, I am going to be performing some calculations before we do anything. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is making sure that if the selected media is null, then what I'm going to be doing is returning a center widget, which a child text, which says no result for now, and do command save. And if that is not the case, then for now we'll return a container and do command save. So now that this is done, I will restart my application. And since our selected media is empty, we're seeing no result. Once we select the media, then it's going to change and show the image to us like so. And the no result is going to disappear since now we're just returning an empty container. So before we can proceed any further, we need to actually implement the actual function which is going to help us to extract text from our image. So to do that, what I'll do is that I will say that I'm going to create a function which will return a future, and it's going to return a optional string. And then I'm going to say that it's going to be called underscore extract text, and it's going to take in a file like so. And then I'm going to say that this function will be asynchronous and open up its body. Here, the first thing that I'm going to be doing is creating a variable called text recognizer, and it's going to come from the text recognizer package. And this text recognizer class is going to come from our Google ML Kit text recognition package. So I'll create a new instance of our text recognizer and instantiate. And then I'm going to be actually passing a script property here to define the actual characters upon which we're going to be performing our text recognition on. By default, we're going to be supporting Latin characters, so I'm going to do text recognition script.latin. But if you want to add other text recognition capabilities, such as for Chinese, then I recommend that you go to the Google ML Kit text recognition packages documentation and read what you have to do if you want to add other languages text recognition capabilities. It's going to be fairly simple, and then you can change the actual text recognition script to something else. So now that we've defined our text recognizer, the next thing that we need to do is actually define the input that our text recognizer is going to work upon. So for that, I'll say that I'm going to create another final variable. I'm going to say that this is going to be input image. This type also comes from the same package as our text recognizer. And then I'm going to say that this variable will be called input image, set this equal to input image, image input dot from file, and then give it the file that gets passed into this function and do command save. Now that this is done, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is creating another variable, and this is going to be of type recognize text. I'm going to say that it's going to be recognize text. I'm going to be setting this equal to an await call where I'm going to be using my text recognizer dot process image, and then passing it the input image like so, and doing command save. This is going to go ahead and perform the text recognition process on our input image using the text recognizer, and then it's going to save the result within our recognize text variable. So the last thing that I'm going to be doing is creating a new variable of type string called text and setting it equal to recognize text dot, and then I'm going to do dot text like so, and then I'm going to close my text recognizer to save on resources and prevent a memory leak, and finally I will return the text like so and do command save. So now that our actual extract text function has been defined properly, all we have to do is use this somehow within our UI, pass it the file that we want to extract the text from, and then show that information. Since this is a function that returns a future of an optional string type, I can use a widget called a future builder to actually work with this function. So to do that, what I'll do is that I'll come to my extract text view function. I'll replace the returning container call with something else, and now I'm going to do that. I'm going to return a future builder. The future builder is going to take in a future. The future in this case will be a call to the extract text function, and I'm going to pass the selected media file as the input to this function. And then the builder function defines how we're going to be building the actual widget. So here we are going to get two things passed to us. The first is context and the next is snapshot. So I'll open up my function block, and here we are going to be just returning a text widget. And then the data in this case is going to be the snapshot.data. And since we're going to be returning an optional string, data can be null. So what I'm going to do is use a nullifier operator and then set that to be an empty string. And then once this is done, I will add another comma, and here I'm going to define some styling for my text, which is going to be just the font size. And then I'm going to add a semicolon. Once this is done, before I do command save or anything like that, I will restart my application and I will do command save. So now let's test our actual text recognition capabilities. I will click on the plus button. I will go to the gallery, select a specific image. Let's see, stop. And it's going to go ahead, and you can see that it's going to extract the text from the image and display it here. If I click on a new image, such as this one, as you can see, it extracted the text properly from this image. So it says clouds, it is hot, the sky is blue, a little cloud comes looking for you, more clouds come, they bring rain, sing and dance, it's cool again. So everything appears to be working as intended. So that's pretty much it for today's tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed and learned a thing or two about text recognition within Flutter. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer them for you. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.